Do you want to go to Japan? If you look on social media lately, you can see that many people want to go to Japan. The houses there are cheap, maybe you can move there. The prices are low, maybe you want to go there for traveling. And even if it's not just about financial reasons, the nature is just beautiful. There's so many beautiful buildings, shrines, temples, so many interesting places to visit, so much variety, there's so many things you can eat, it's just so tasty. So why wouldn't you go to Japan? And some people even go a step further. Some people want to really move to Japan. And I myself already moved to Japan one time, and in my life I already moved 6 times. And in this September I will move to Japan again for a last 7th time. So in this video I want to talk in my experience also what you need to watch out for when you move to a different country or just move to a different place. So like I told you before, in my life I already moved 6 times. 5 times of those were inside Germany, some were study related and some just family related, and one time I also moved to Japan. So I have some kind of experience with packing my things and moving somewhere, and the last time that I will move to somewhere will be this year in September. So I think I have some experience about moving somewhere. So in this video, let me give you some tips or tricks that I think are beneficial for moving somewhere. And because I don't want to make that video too long, I will keep it mostly in 3 to 4 topics. So the first topic about moving somewhere in my case is you should know why you go somewhere or for what reason you go somewhere. And it is important in the following way. So just imagine this situation. It doesn't matter if you move to a faraway city or if you move to another country, some things are always present. If you move to a new city, for example, your family will stay in the other city, your friends will also stay in the other city, you will be alone in the beginning. Maybe you already know some people in that city, that would be the best option, but usually if you move somewhere, you don't have any friends there yet. And even if you meet some people, to really get a close relationship will take some time. And this is the moment where I think you will also spend much time alone. And that is where I think you need a goal. Because I think everyone had the situation that they moved somewhere and maybe at one point they thought, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have moved. And it is at this moment that you need to think about, why am I here? So for example, in my case, I will move to Japan in September to work there. I'm glad because I have some friends there, but on the other hand, I know the reason why I'm there. I studied for the moment that I can be able to move to Japan, find a job there, and maybe build a life there. And that is a reason that I think can keep me pushing, even if my family is maybe not there, or even if my friends from Germany are not there. Pretty simple, think about why you're there. And the second point is build stereotypes. And maybe if you watched my last video, you will think something like, but wait, you talked about stereotypes and you said stereotypes are not good, but why should I build stereotypes now? So let me give you a small explanation what I mean by this. So I think stereotypes are a good way to get used or accustomed to a new culture. When you compare Germany and Japan, for example, one pretty often told thing is that Germans are really direct and Japanese are really indirect. So, for example, a German person will more often say that what they think and what they mean, and the Japanese person will always kind of try to say it in other words because they want you to read it. In Kyoto, for example, it can happen that you meet a person and maybe if they invite you to their home, they will ask you for another cup of tea. And I don't know, for me as a German, this sounds like, do I want a cup of tea? Yes or no? But in this case, it is kind of a phrase for, yeah, just get out. Like, no. So usually in Japan, people will expect you to just say no and go home. But in Germany, people will really ask you if you want a cup of tea or not. And of course, from person to person, it is different how indirect they are and how direct they are. If they see that you're a foreigner, maybe they will be more direct. But in general, really just in general, you can say that Japan is more indirect than Germany. But that also means you can meet a Japanese person that is more direct than every German you met in your life. But I think having a stereotype is a good starter to go into a new culture. Because when you go somewhere, you will have many culture shocks. And culture shocks, in other words, are just many things you recognize that are way different than you have them in your home. And usually in your home country, you're used to what you need to do where. But in Japan, you don't know all those phrases. You don't know how people express themselves. You don't know how people behave in certain situations. And those are situations where maybe some people will laugh about it, or some people will find it funny, or maybe some people will really get offended by it. So by having some stereotypes, you can kind of prepare for the situation, I would say. Or prepare which things could happen when you go to another country. And while you live there, you learn the culture more, you learn the language more, and by this, you can kind of go away from the stereotypes and create your own picture or your own reality of how things work in this country. And if you want to know more about stereotypes or maybe some culture shocks that you can have when you go to another country, just watch my last video here. And for the third point, and I think it's actually the most important point, find some activity that is relaxing for you. For example, I just told you that there are many things that can be stressful for you. Because you're not in the environment you're used to with your family, your friends, your everyday activities, this will make you stressed because you don't have the routine you're used to. And that is not just something that I experienced, that is something that I witnessed among many other exchange students that I talked to in Japan. And it's not just about situations, like I told you before, with some rules or cultural rules you don't know. It's also about the most simplest things. So when I went to Japan, I didn't even knew how to pay at the restaurant. There are so many ways to pay, and it begins with the small questions. Do you need to give them a tip or no? Do you pay at the table or do you pay at the reception? And for example, when you want to go to a restaurant, you need to drive a bus, right? But the bus system is completely different. Do I need to go inside in the front? Do I need to go inside in the back? There are whole different systems in Japan too. And those are many things that you don't know and you need to learn in the beginning, and that you, of course, don't want to make any mistakes. Of course, it's okay to make mistakes, but just being in the situations already can make you kind of stressed. So usually I'm a person that needs much nature to relax. So usually I would just take a walk in Germany, for example. But when I was living in Japan, just a simple thing as walking was already stressful for me, because Japan, for example, is, at least the region I lived at, around Chiba, Tokyo, was way louder than the region I lived in Germany. And that kind of made me really, really exhausted to always hear those sounds, to always see some buildings and not have that many greenery spaces. So in this case, I think I should have researched a bit in the beginning. Okay, where's some nature? Where's some day trip you can do into nature? Or where are some beautiful parks that are more silent? And if I would have prepared these kind of places before I went to Japan, I think I would have been more calm in Japan and would have less stress. So yeah, in my opinion, the most important points, like I told you in the beginning, is know why you're there, why you should be there. Have some stereotypes in the beginning to kind of get fond in the culture and reduce your culture shocks. And in the third point, like I told you, find some activity that you can do there too that can relieve some stress. If you have some other tips, you can always write them down in the comments. I think many people can benefit from it. And just a small bonus tip is, for a country like Japan, I would really, really recommend you to also learn the language. Because if you don't know the language, you cannot even interact with the people in the country. And I think this will not be just hard for everyday situations. It will also be hard to actually find friends in Japan. If you want to prepare your language skills for Japan, you can also take a look on my website. I will link it down in the description when it's done, and learn some Japanese to be prepared. But yeah, thank you for listening. Have a great day. Mata kondo desu ne.